It's a little convoluted. I keep changing and updating, so I don't know where stuff is on here now. Alright. Hey, much love, many blessings. Welcome to the new year. No, I'll be completely honest. I've actually known about the new moon coming up this Sunday, like all week, I think. But it's crazy how like the portal or just the timing has really gotten away from me. But I mean, it's actually in a good way too, because with the end of last year and coming into this new year, it seems like there's a lot of busy work and alignment work, because the calendar year is important too. Like we still make shifts, there's sayings, out with the demons, in with the blessings, things of that nature. So in our own ways, we're really realizing the things that we need to drop off in our energy field so that we can make room for just all the different things that we wish to receive. So what's been kind of dope is, like, through the last month, because we're in the Capricorn season now, but when we were moving through the Sagittarius season, there was really like just a lot going on because, with in this particular rotation of Venus, like we were just going through this 4-month period of Venus being in Capricorn. But with just the fast pacedness of the Sagittarius season, I will admit that certain things kind of got away from me, and I actually didn't expect the temple to be like what it was. And it's not to say that I didn't get the things that I wanted done, but there was ultimately, even though I accomplished a lot, there were still things that pretty much just, had to be put off for another time, another day. And then with the advent of being under the weather and just caring for other people, the focus is really just shifted to other things. And surprisingly, I usually find the Sagittarius season tends to be under normal circumstances, like a time where we get very excited and very impassioned. And usually it means that usually we see a spike a lot of times in our jovialness and our immune system. But this particular one, I noticed that there was a lot of even though there were mentally a lot of good ideas, in the physical there was a lot of healing and suppressed wounds or just faking things were fine because we didn't want to miss out on things. So I found that to be really kind of detrimental during this this particular winter season. That's why we all suffered a lot of fatigue and things of that nature. But one of the things that is really interesting now is that we're here on this eve, or really just this day of this new moon. We have a new moon in Capricorn. So there's a lot of Capricorn placements there. We had the Mercury was in Capricorn. It may have shifted. I have to double check, but I know Mercury was in Capricorn. But there were just a lot of placements that were essentially dealing with, when we deal with Capricorn, we deal with how we're essentially moving for ourselves and our business, our career, because it doesn't always have to be literally career, it's just the symbolically what are we striving in and accomplishing the ambitions that it is that we want for ourselves. And okay, we'll have to probably pause it. Teen Titans is one of those shows where it's the live action one is kind of it's good in the background, but then it randomly gets good. But let me pause this shit. But I'm gonna pick up with all these Capricorn placements. It just really kind of had me thinking, especially with Venus and Capricorn. And when we went through this retrograde, under normal circumstances, with the Venus placement in Capricorn, when we get that earthy placement, we don't necessarily get the most emotion or just kind of the giving per se, just externally. It's usually more of what we get for ourselves. So with this Venus placement in Capricorn, It's really seeing what we can get out of this. And I find it very fitting that such a strong placement is really triggering now with this retrograde, because like with this placement, like we're really dealing with like, have we been saying or doing the things that we've meant to do? And we can really be kicking ourselves emotionally and mentally about those things that we know we should have jumped on the fence for. One of the other things I do want to point out in the collective is during this time, especially with the Mercury retrograde, it's not going on, but like a lot of times, like with the shadow period and things, that the momentum starts to build, where there's kind of like this devilish nature in the air, like especially when we deal with the Venus retrograde in Capricorn, because Capricorn is ruled by the devil energy. So it, in a sense, is really just asking, okay, what can I get out of this? What am I making out of this? So when we're coming back to a retrograde, or with a lot of ourselves emotionally in the collective, within our lifestyles, within our dynamics, we're being revisited with things that we didn't take advantage of within is pretty much the best way to put it. So because we didn't take advantage of those things, there might be these relationships where it's like we're more than friends, or we haven't clearly defined what it is that we want within the dynamic, but we're just kind of here, and it's within our relationships, within our work dynamics, we're kind of just here. I've been working here for 5 years. I'm not really anything important, but I'm not also any entry-level person. You still kind of need me, but my role is kind of this ambiguous, undefined, kind of insert me here, there. And that's how we're feeling within our dynamics. And it's like, okay, what am I getting out of my work? Where's this going? What am I getting out of my relationship? Where is this going? So when we get retrogrades of any kind, we deal with exes, partners, and things coming back up. But particularly when we deal with retrogrades that cover Capricorn, it's automatically karmic related. So because Saturn holds time, it holds the energy that's been built up to this point. So what you'll notice a lot of times, not a lot of times, but just in this particular retrograde, that's going to be kind of wrapping up near the end of January of this year, is you're getting back to confronting a lot of things that you've gotten away with from the last, the most noticeably 6 months, but it's really maybe even longer than that, maybe like a year or so. As it relates to connections, ambitions, and how you've pretty much dealt out or given out your energy in relation to investments and exchange, as far as what you want to see or produce back during this time. So you're seeing a lot of people's spirits during this time are unconsciously and maybe even consciously excited about what's transpiring close to the end of January, or just going through this Venus retrograde, because once Venus comes back direct, and I think it goes into Aquarius, we'll be feeling that we have all the tools needed to kind of like take off and get where it is that we always wanted to go. So it should be really interesting, because during the time, like as we kind of stepped into the new 2022 year, we're like what can I do differently? Like, how can my footsteps be abundant? And this isn't like the typical, like, new year, new me. This is, your spirit is actually feeling something that is different, and it wants to collect in on the things that it's put its energy into. So let's kind of like focus back, because I don't really want to touch, I'm always going to touch on this Venus retrograde, because it actually has a lot of wisdom and messages that are actually coming forth for the collective, especially on an emotional end. But I really also want to focus on this new moon in Capricorn, because it actually spells really good things for our finances and careers, and just treasures and things that are coming to the forefront. A lot of times during this period, especially with the new moon, but particularly with Capricorn, since we have been trying to figure out how to create that way, it's not like dealing with Taurus, where money may be natural or just something is accumulated as far as the value. Capricorn is more so trying to make sense of what value and resources have actually been presented. So these are things that have already been laying in your energy field. This isn't something that you're necessarily searching for, even though it may uncover and come to you, because that's sometimes the effects of the retrograde overlaying with this new moon Capricorn. But during this time, because of this energy that we have available, this is a very powerful time for you to consider what things that you want to come to you, because especially wrapping up to near the end of the year, you were making room for all the things that you want to release. And the reason that we make room, the reason we do spring cleaning, the reason that we clear out stagnant energy is so that we can bring in new gifts and new things and things that are more fitting for our energy field, things that we deserve. So this is also about asking yourself, am I getting the things that I deserve in 2022? And how do I want to change those patterns so that I'm not just walking on autopilot in relation to my heart chakra? I'm not just responding to pleasure triggers and hurt triggers. Am I actually consciously aware in the moment what's being given and offered to me? Am I taking that conscious pause so that when I present it with something that seems appealing, I'm not running away or shying away out of jealousy or just assuming that it's too good to be true or just buying into some type of poverty consciousness. You may even be presented with the gifts that you want, but it may not be enough for you because there's not a big enough container within your heart to receive or to first at least feel that you deserve what's actually coming to within your awareness. So some of this has to deal with the fact that, especially with this Capricorn placement in the moon, is definitely I took the fucking words out of my mouth. Is to bring awareness to our sacral and our heart chakra, because the heart chakra is actually doing a lot of overtime work. The heart chakra is trying to find a way to pivot or balance the space within your auric field, because it's trying to hold a container to receive, to let you know that you deserve what's coming to you. But ultimately within your sacral chakra, there's desires that are lighting up and activating you. You're seeing things that you regretted, things that you didn't say, but you're still feeling them and you want a deeper and closer connection with those things. So a lot of times you're not getting or receiving these connections during this time, or haven't been receiving them up to this point, is because every time that sensation is triggered within your energy field, when you come across that person, that romantic perception that it is that you want within your lifestyle, are you actually embracing it within your energy field, or are you denying it with some form of defeatism consciousness within your way of thinking and perception? There's really the word that comes to my mind is cravings. When we feel unfulfilled, our regrets turn into this strong desire of obsession. Some of that spills over into our heart desires. So as we lead up, definitely coming from spirit. I didn't even get to pull a message yet, but seeing the heart chakra come out and flop out, especially with connection, is showing that there is an interconnectedness that you are needing during this time, and especially coming from 21 into 2022. You need to bridge these gaps within what it is that you desire, and being authentically honest about how it makes you feel and what energy are you producing during this time. Is that energy actually conducive or contributing to what it is that you desire for yourself, or are you just accepting and follow models of images and structures that you want? You want to look like you're happy. You want to look like you're in a relationship. You want to build your car. You don't want to be single, so you maintain this serial monogamy. But are any of these people actually concerned more beyond just the image of themselves, or just what they're getting out of the dynamic too? So what the issue is when we're in such a rush to attract just the end result, just the finish line mentality, when we're not considering the intent leading up to it, we don't realize that we also are, that is a mirror. That person, that situation, that job is a mirror or of what it is that you are mirroring out. So we sit up here and then we get in these relationships and it feels like, well, I'm settling for this, but I want this. But you just magnetize that type of person to you, a person that is settling but actually wants something else. So the two of you are wondering why you have this hollow relationship with one another, and why one of you feels betrayed, or there feels like there's this unreciprocated energy being put into the dynamic to maintain the connection. And that's because there is. It's because the connection is one-sided. You're putting in the passion, but you're not putting in the authentic intent. If you were concerned about those things, then you would also be magnetizing the people to you that would draw the energy to you. But sometimes it's not just a matter of admitting that we want something as well. It also has a lot to do with the traumas and fears. If we don't feel like we can get something, or if we feel that it's too unrealistic before we even start out the gate, our sacral chakra is going to shut down. And we can tell, we sometimes have indicators to tell if we're suffering traumas within our pleasure and desire centers, because the sacral chakra governs our vices, our addictions, the things that feel good to us. Sometimes when we are having erratic decisions, or we come to a choice where it's like, okay, you come across this guy, you come across this woman, you come across this job opportunity, you come across this vacation opportunity, this project, anything where it's adding some type of essence, or potentially could add essence to your lifestyle. And then there's a self-check that comes into awareness within your sacral chakra, and you're like, okay, you're feeling, do you want this? Now your spirit, your body, you feel that you want this. Because this is purity. The sacral chakra, Sanskrit, translates to purity, or the seat of the self. So this is about authentically feeling what it is that you want. So ultimately, when you feel these sensations of what's authentically coming within your awareness, what ends up happening is you feel the sensation, but as this feeling rises, your ego comes into play, and you decide, is it tangible for you? You decide, is it practical, or is it realistic for you to be able to receive this? It's not that you don't want it. A lot of times it's, do you believe that it will happen for you because you want it? So it's a fulfillment, and it's the ability to make the goal happen. So anything that we don't satisfy as a goal becomes a suppressed desire or a craving. So a lot of this new moon, especially with Capricorn, because Capricorn deals with the terror archetype of the devil, and the devil is all the ambitions, and sometimes on the negative, to the point of not considering the consequences of what it is that you are tunnel visionally focused on. So sometimes it can be all consuming, and what it means is that if we don't give honest recognition or validation to what it is that we are feeling rise up or activate within our awareness, when we come across something that is deemed desirable for us personally, then we suppress it, and then we're lying to ourselves. We're not being authentic, and that is a form of sin. Sin is when you are not true to yourself. So when you suppress something that is your truth, that is a sin. So we are in the format of trying to discipline ourselves to be able to receive more of the thing that we actually want in a healthy way. But when we tell ourselves that we just simply, when we feel the sensation in an infantile state, and we just cut it down and just say, nope, I'm not supposed to like that, you haven't even investigated or not whether you actually do like it. So now your internal self, the parts of yourself that needs this thing, because this is coming from an area of purity and the seat of your authentic self. This is not about whether or not you are left wing, right wing, and you support the sun or don't. It's the fucking sun, and it's rising. You need it to live. You need the essence. But you're just busy thinking about the ego side of it, what people will think, and if it's conducive for you. It is conducive for you. It is your life essence. There's not a choice in the matter. It's the sun energy for your nature and your lifestyle and your being. So you have to honor these things, and the gap that you feel is establishing that connection with what it is that you've been denying that you don't want and that you do want. You need to draw in more things that you intrinsically want closer to you, and less of the things, and remove those things from your energy field that you don't want within your energy field. I do want to actually realize I haven't even pulled these messages were actually jumping out from spirit. So I see that wisdom definitely had to be conveyed. But let's actually pull a message for the new moon. Let's keep this simple. Simple if not potent, because we already got a lot of energy going there. Definitely pull a message for the new moon and allow ourselves to connect and to open this portal to the clarity that comes from Capricorn. Capricorn is a very ambitious sign. It's cardinal, so it's a lot of initiation and activation and getting things going. Since we're dealing with the 10th house, we're dealing about looking at not just the immediate results of the work that we've done, but not also just focused on the now moment. If we're in balance, we also are considering the best practical use for our energy. What's the best practical use of my emotional energy? What have I created and established within my relationships? How is it building my career? How is it building my future? What fortunes and fames are coming to me now during this time that I feel that I should be deserving of? We're missing out on things not because they're not there, but because we're simply not utilizing them while they're still available. What things am I deserving of that I want to connect more deeply to? How can I bring myself closer to those connections? And how can this satisfy my authentic desires? Okay, spread these out. Okay, Four of Wands. So definitely dealing with some interconnectedness here. But more importantly, it's not just about wanting to connect. There's already an energy that's being brought to the table. There's a need to want the energies presented, to be able to trust and to stand behind the energies presented. Your spirit and your deeper part of yourself is asking you to trust in the sensations that you're feeling within your heart, instead of always using your ego to downplay them, to question, or to suppress them. The more you suppress something, that doesn't actually create discipline. Discipline is when there's moderation and temperance, and honest temperance of doing something now versus doing it later. Suppression is not even honoring the fact that that feeling even exists, and all truths come to light, because it takes energy to hold a fist. Eventually, a muscle has to relax. Your mental muscle has to relax. Your illusions and the veils that you pull up have to relax at some point. So when that relaxes, your spirit is trying to let you know the ego needs to relax so that it can allow the authentic heart to express its truth. And when you relax, what is the authentic truth of what you feel? What is the authentic truth of your desires, of the energy that's trying to consummate and come together to form a healthy relationship, one that is true to who you are? We can get through these things, but the these resistances come from fears and insecurities. So there's a lot of burning and releasing that has to be done. Nine of Swords, a lot of mental hangups, and most likely these mental hangups are either coming from either you're heavily focused on your own self and you've been oversaturating yourself with the same material or the same perception, or you're just around a lot of people in general who have not been supporting. It's like the opposite of a yes man, but you have a group of no men who have all the ways, 100 ways to tell you how it's not going to work, and can confirm that and help to decree that across the board. Also, another important, there we go. But yes, especially as we get to the end or close to the, well, not the end of the year, it's already the fucking end of the year. As we transition over, you'll notice that contracts start to come into play, and the Venus retrograde and the Mercury retrograde is coming up. There's a lot of play on contracts, and what you'll notice is that there's a two-sidedness to contracts that isn't being honored, and that will be coming into effect. You'll see the results of that coming into effect in blessings and or payouts coming into effect close to the end of January, because Capricorn deals a lot with contracts and things coming full circle, and contracts are both verbal and written. The thing is, a lot of written contracts are only good up until the point of having leverage against the person that is being used against. But that's not really the main or the only point of contracts. Contracts are binding. When you break a contract, it is a way of honoring the agreements on both sides of both parties to commit to these changes. But written contracts are masculine energy. Oral contracts come from the divine, and they're usually honored through the energy. I say this to say that there's been a lot of dishonoring of contracts, or not honoring all contracts in all forms. Also, take into heed the desires and the things that are coming to you during this time, because metaphysically, when you don't honor contracts, or when you don't keep your word, perform spiritual larceny, the energy gets away from you, and other things that start to come through for you. It is very important that you honor the contracts, especially the verbal ones, because those are the ones that the ancestors, those are the ones that the divine actually pays attention to, because those are the contracts. Tales are passed on, and stories and cultures that are passed on through the orators in your community. The contracts that were of land that were passed down in the community as well, that were honored just simply through the ancestry or through the phenotypes of people's heritage, had to be honored through the divine feminine, and honoring the contracts of both parties agreeing. When paper came into the physical of those type of contracts, it gave a way for someone to create something to represent its value for things that are disproportionate. How do you have a land bank? How do you take over land other than through force? So there's nothing wrong with this stuff, but we have to at least balance out the understanding that if we can have a written contract, then an oral contract has to have equal weight. And generally it has more of a divine weight with it to begin with. I ultimately say that to say that it's time for you to consider the verbal contracts that you made, and a lot of contracts have been being broken because realistically, we tend to only honor contracts if it's in our favor or if we'll get caught. A lot of times, contracts are really just a way for crooks and people who are in the position to provide the contract to get the other party to just conform while they do all their bullshit. But that's not how it's supposed to work. So with this time, with this Venus retrograde, definitely give consideration to things that you've said, things that you've promised, contracts that you've signed. And are you holding up to those ends of the deals? Because when you break promises with gods and entities, those are actually the hardest, are some of the most brutal punishments to receive. Like, it's like breaking the contract with Mod. Like, that's a soul tie. Like, what are you gonna pay that back with? So it's really important to consider the energy. I say it's really important to consider the energy during this time. And Nine of Swords, just additional confirmation. With so much built up, it doesn't really matter what you stack up or put into the situation. When we get back down to the source and we get past all the layers, 4 of Wands, clear out anything that blocks you from the purity of the connection and the purity of the desire that it is that you're trying to bring forth. It's a lot of times you'll notice that once you start to get started, with anything that you set the seed in your mind to, you start to notice that when those step 10, step 20, step 40, it's all this fucking extra convoluted shit that's piled up into the situation. And you're wondering like, why, when I came up with the idea on paper, and now that I've actually maybe said it to 2 other people, that now I got all this doubt, I'm thinking about all these things. Where is this energy coming from? Is this coming from me? Is it coming from the fact that I fucking spoke it out? Do I have actual people who are supportive of me? Like, what the fuck is going on here? So these are definitely things to consider. And we may actually even want to take a different approach, which is actually look at the source, the mirror, or the wheel of the energy that we have coming into the situation. So this is also a confirmation that there is more than one type of energy involved. And it's still a little early to know exactly what you'll get. Usually this is a double confirmation that when the wheel comes up, that however you're looking at the circumstances is 100% true. Is this the worst shit going on? These people are fucking you over. You got to bust your ass. You're not getting what's due. That shit's 100% true. Are you in a position of opportunity? Are you there for another purpose? Is there something deeper that's going on that could put you in the driver's seat? Is there another calling that's going on in that situation? Or do you have more power than you're giving credit? That's also 100% true. The thing is, you can see your weight loss. You can see where your blemishes are, but you can also see what you brought yourself to. That's the thing about looking in the mirror. All the energy is just matter. It's negative matter, positive matter, all just accumulated to this point. So what are we doing with the matter? Are we focused on the negative? Are we focused on the fact that it's going to take so much work to get it? People are going to think so much shit, or are we focused on the fact that simply you want it and that it somehow connects you with a deeper part of yourself? So as we open ourselves to this portal of this new moon in Capricorn, we take that pause and we surrender to the energy that is transpiring during this time. Let's really ask ourselves, how are we forging and opening ourselves up to the desires that we authentically want for ourselves? And how are we allowing ourselves to actually give this good thing a chance? Allowing ourselves to actually allow for success to happen. I hope this message resonates with you, and I more so even hope that you're enjoying your new moon in Capricorn. And as we get ready to prepare for this week, definitely take your time as we move through these retrogrades and these intense energies. There's pauses that have to happen within yourself, and you may have a point or a moment where you feel as if it's very mental for you, because Capricorn is a sign of a lot of mental energy. So we have to take that pause and ask yourself what it is that you want for yourself. and spend more time putting energy towards just taking the steps. A lot of this energy right now is just simply just trying to take the step. And if you find yourself getting mental, then it's time to reduce it down and clear out some space so you can actually make those informed decisions for yourself. Ultimately, definitely drop a comment if this is resonating with you. Share with a friend. I'll be dropping more content on here, and most likely, depending on how things are going, I'll be working on the next Venus podcast. Just looking at how this week is going. Definitely excited for the week to come and just how this new moon shapes our direction, because it all is just a temporal effect. So with this new moon Capricorn, just really allowing ourselves to surrender to what can open up for us. We really have a tendency as a collective and just as beings to not allow good things to happen for ourselves simply because of us. We'll see other people doing things, or we'll see an opportunity, we'll see a stock, and we'll know the math and the trends, or we'll know like, hey, I should do this, or if I create this thing, this is going to happen. But then ultimately, especially if we're met with justified situations that justify when we do it, that no one's going to like it just because it's us. This is confirmation that those cycles are breaking and that you have to go forward and do those things for you. Don't do it because they won't support you. Do it for yourself so that you can support yourself. So see how the universe can open up and consume this darkness and make a way of light to continue to support you. And if you feel unsupported in the things that you're doing, continue to ask the universe for support. Continue to ask the universe to support you in ways in which you haven't felt supported in the physical, so that you can receive those energy and those connections within your space. Ultimately, I believe this is a very auspicious year and just week that's going to open up and unfold for you. Allow yourself to have mindfulness of the things that are transpiring so that you can actually see them taking shape within your space. Because at the end of the day, I'm going to say the things that resonate, but you need to feel those things resonating within your lifestyle and within your energy field, or it doesn't fucking mean shit. So much love, many blessings, and ashe.